Colleen. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, How Qlik Leverages Analytics to Drive Sales Performance. My name is Dan Brault, Senior Solutions Marketing Manager. To start off, just a quick legal disclaimer, although we probably won't be making any, the development of our product and maturity may differ from any forward looking statements or inferred in this webinar. And here's just a quick cartoon, Dogberg cartoon, around how surprisingly most organizations approach analytics and their ability to make gut-based decisions. And clearly there's data trust issues, data quality issues, and here at Qlik, that certainly is not the case. As you'll see, we have a robust analytics platform. We drink our own champagne, so to speak, and you'll see various applications and talk about and hear about our data architecture, the various data sources we use, and how we use the data to drive our decision-making and business processes. Quick agenda. I'm going to do a brief introduction to Qlik as an organization and our products. And then I'm going to hand it over to Joe Francis, who's going to talk about our data architecture, give you some screenshots of a few of the many applications we use here at Qlik before doing a live demonstration of a couple of our applications that we use. And then Meerah Rajavel, our CIO, is going to give a CIO perspective from the IT point of view. I'll wrap the webinar up with some additional information and resources, and we will leave time at the end for some Q&A. So please submit any questions that you have in the Q&A panel, and we'll address those at the end. So Qlik as an organization, we have over 35,000 customers globally in over 105 countries. We have a very expansive partner network. We are publicly listed. You can see our growth that we've had in the marketplace over the years, enabling decision-making through analytics at all organizations. Down at the bottom, you can see the products, the portfolio of products that we have. We probably won't get into all the nuances of each of these products, but QlikView is our guided analytics platform that has been in the marketplace for 2 decades now. QlikSense is our self-service visualization platform with some extensibility as far as APIs and mobility. We do have a Qlik Cloud offering, and our end printing solution is our reporting solution off of all of these applications and data within your organization. Taking a look at some of the repeatable solution areas that our customers have had success with, many of these sort of solution areas and functions are used here at Qlik for analytics, as well as all of our customers worldwide. So it's important to understand that although we will be primarily focused around the sales function and sales analytics today, none of these functions operate in a silo where they rely on data from other source systems that reside in these other functions. And the cross-functional nature of the business is really what performs best is those cross-functional nature and an enterprise analytics platform so that people are making better decisions and working collaboratively across the organization. And analyzing data from multiple data sources is really what produces the optimal sales performance, as you'll see based on our sales architecture. And I know this is going to vary based on different organizations, the data sources that they use. Here's just a sample of data sources, certainly not a complete list. But whether it is your CRM and gaining that valuable customer data out of it, combining that with ERP system and the financials, and seeing the relationships in those data sources. Think about the marketing operations and how that can enable sales analytics. Even external data, whether it's weather or demographic data that's publicly available. The ability to integrate and merge these data, all of these data sources together, see relationships in the data, and really perform better decision making. So whether it is big data or just simple CSV files, Excel files, or your Workday or HR systems, all of these data sources collectively contain data that's valuable to not only sales performance, but all operations throughout the organization. So now I'm going to hand it over to Joe Francis, our VP of Global Operations, and he's going to talk a little bit more about our data architecture and do a live demonstration. Joe? Thanks, Dan, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm just going to take you through, as Dan described, the Qlik, what we call Qlik at Qlik. So, and in particular, focus on how we do our use Qlik for both driving pipeline and forecast management, as well as territory segmentation, which are two very common areas for our customers to address because of the nature of the multiple data source environments in which they operate. So, Colleen, I'm just struggling to move that through. Colleen, I just need to move the slides.
If you use can you see the arrow at the top of the slide deck?
All right. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, sorry about that, folks. So, yeah, we use Qlik across the whole business, including sales, but also pre-sales, finance and accounting, legal, education, and so on. And one of the most important aspects of being able to leverage Qlik across these different functions is to make sure that people are using, if they're looking at a line of business Qlik application, such as in marketing or in services or in finance, that where they need to look at common data definitions, such as customer or salesperson or pipeline, that they use, that they're able to see the same numbers regardless of which application they look at. And we've deployed Qlik in such a way that allows that, so the use of common data definitions across the different line of business applications as a really strong governance model to build trust in the data and ultimately help us become a much more data-driven organization. What we do with our Qlik View environment is deploy applications in different functional areas on what's called an access point, and that's set up so that obviously people are allowed to look at the applications that are important to them, and of course not to see applications that we don't want them to see, and we do that using section access, and that's and we do that with both Qlik View and Qlik Sense. Moving on to the subject of sales performance management, what we've embarked on over the last 18 months or so to fuel our growth has been something that we call QSMS, or the Qlik Sales Management System. And I'll just describe that in just a few moments, but essentially what we were trying to achieve through that was helping our sales leaders improve their capabilities as leaders, as sales coaches for our sales people, and ultimately through focusing on upgrading the sales capability from a leadership perspective, being able to drive an increase in our sales productivity at salesperson level, which we've been able to do. So using an external organization called the Mentor Group, we've been able to identify the key components of sales leadership that we want our leaders to develop deep expertise in. The Mentor Group is an organization founded and funded by Tony Robbins and Mark Benioff, and the European arm is run by Chris Norton and his team. And what they do is they help train our leaders in a particular area, such as market planning, where do I invest best, or pipeline and forecast management, how do I make sure that my pipeline is clean, healthy, and sufficient. And then not just go through a one-off training session, but actually really embed what they've learned into the day-to-day work using the data to drive their business. And the net result that we found is that through building in a more rigorous data-driven approach to these core topics, we've ultimately been able to free up more customer-facing time for our sales organization. So we've built the key data that underpin each of these areas into a suite of applications that we call 360, and I'm going to show the Market 360 for territory segmentation
and the Sales 360 for pipeline and forecast management in just a moment. Those applications sit on a number of tools, which I'll go into in a little bit more detail in a moment, but it's all about making sure that it's having a regular, disciplined cadence for sales leadership to operate. So which data sources do we use at Qlik? We use Salesforce.com, of course, as our core platform, like many companies, using Marketing Cloud, Sales Cloud, PRM, that's the Partner Relationship Management side, and Service Cloud and Knowledge and so on. We also use NetSuite as our ERP system, and indeed have built our configuration, pricing, and quoting engine in NetSuite into the Salesforce.com Opportunity Management module. From an HR perspective, we use Workday, and then from a marketing perspective, we use several tools, but two of the main ones are Marketo on the marketing automation side, and then a relatively new tool on the market called Lattice Engines, which allows us to do, it's kind of a predictive analytics tool that enables you to do refined lead scoring and management, which has been tremendously effective for us, and I can comment on that another time should you wish to follow up. Host analytics for our finance planning and analysis. Expenses we use Concur. For sales commission, we use Exactly Incent. That sits inside Salesforce.com. So when people say if the deal is not in Salesforce, you don't get paid, that's quite literally true for us. From a collaboration perspective, our Qlik community platform, which has about at least 100,000 regular partners and customers using it. That's based on Jive. And then a fairly new piece of technology in the gamification space called Sumo, and that is about rewarding salespeople for the drivers of revenue rather than just paying on the revenue. And that's proved to be very effective at increasing pipeline and activity of the right type in Salesforce.com. From a market data perspective, we've invested in data.com, which is the Salesforce product that uses Dun & Bradstreet and other data sources. And then from a relationship management and relationship scoring perspective, we use two tools, New Voice Media as our call tracker, which is particularly important in our hub, and then Data Hug, which is a tool that sits on the Outlook server and tracks the number of emails and meetings taking place between customers and prospects and ourselves, and then pumps that data into Salesforce. And then, of course, because we're not perfect, we use spreadsheets and do Google Analytics and so on. And what we use Qlik for, of course, is to analyze data from within a complex tool of any one of these, and more importantly, to bring together data from multiple different tools like this, and I'll demonstrate that in just a second. We don't actually at Qlik use a data warehouse. We stage our data. It loads automatically into QlikView files, which we then do some transformation work in, and merge the data, build our data definitions, and then those data, then that gets published into line of business Qlik applications. But as you can tell from looking at these data sources, we predominantly a cloud-based business in terms of the way we run our own company. So just to summarize, we have over 1,700 users of Salesforce.com. We use Service Cloud 2, Chatter Mobile, Partner Portal. As described, we've got a centralized server with incremental loads of Salesforce data into QlikView and many different QlikView files across the different lines of business. And I've described already the sample data sources, and I'm just going to demonstrate the use of that right now. So moving into the demo environment, and Colleen, if you could just confirm that this is possible to see. So I've now moved across to a view of Salesforce.com. Can you see that okay, Colleen?
Not yet.
All right. Okay, so there we go, Salesforce.com. There we are. Can you see Salesforce now?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So this is our Salesforce.com environment, and I'm actually going to end up showing you how this works for one of the smaller regions in our business. So Sales 360 is a tab that we have put into Salesforce.com. You don't have to deploy Qlik in a Salesforce environment. You can deploy it in on the access point that I referred to earlier on. But we, for this particular application, have chosen to deploy it within the Salesforce environment. And that's really important because our sales users this is probably the most heavily used application within our business. And our sales users will log into Salesforce and they will only see what they're supposed to see, of course. We use section access, so in this case, Yarmo will log in and see what he's supposed to see, but myself with global access, I can go anywhere inside the organization. And what this tells us, we've got a very simple dashboard initially that tells us where are they in terms of quota, year-to-date numbers, and so on. That's pulling data together from our hierarchy system, which is maintained outside Salesforce, and also some data from Salesforce.com. One of the things that both we and our customers look at very closely is our forecast accuracy. So how does the sales forecast progress throughout the quarter? Here we can see both the last quarter forecast. I can see here that the forecast for this particular team was just over €1 million, just under 1.2 million euros, and finished at pretty close to that at the end of the quarter, so and achieved 97% forecast accuracy. And what we can see is that the red is the quota, the green is the forecast, the black is the closed won position, and the yellow represents the best case. And so it allows us to really see how in control of their business somebody really is. And we can also see, looking at the current quarter, whether there is any risk in the pipeline or indeed in the forecast. And this allows us to see of the committed value, which in this case is 1.48 million, how much of that is made up of real opportunities at the commit stage from the team members that work for this individual. And here we can see that this is a pretty solid forecast because the majority of that individual forecast is made up of real deals at 96%. Obviously, if the number is 150%, then that person should probably be increasing their forecast. If the number is 50%, then they should probably be lowering their forecast. It's really helpful in terms of understanding the risk of a business. Going back to the green slide that we showed earlier on, we've got a tab called the Management tab, and that's where we've embedded a number of these sales disciplines I referred to. So the disciplines manifest themselves in something called meetings. So here there's different type of meetings. This one's called a pipeline funnel meeting. What is a pipeline funnel meeting? It's a team meeting that is designed around ensuring that the individuals have a clean and healthy and sufficient funnel. It's a 30-minute meeting. It takes place on a bi-weekly basis. And the advantage of taking this approach of embedding the meeting cadence and specific structure into the analytics layer is that for the team, they know exactly what their manager is going to be looking at before the meeting. They can clean up their data beforehand, and then they get into the meeting and they can have a much more productive meeting. And now we find for many of our managers, this isn't even a 30-minute meeting every 2 weeks. It's more like a 15-minute meeting because people have done what they need to do before. So here we can see the clean. So we see open opportunities with a past close date. There are 4 in Q2, so they'll need to be cleaned up. Or how many old opportunities at the champion stage are there? From a healthiness perspective, where's the pipeline and where should it be? Orange is where it should be. Gray represents where it is by stage of the sales funnel. And over here, we look at some of the early stage opportunities and see where there might be some aging going on. And the nice thing is we can drill down. I can take a particular opportunity here with this company, which is a pipeline deal for Q3 at an early stage, and I can say, hang on a minute, why might that one have been in that stage of the funnel as long as it's needed to be? And I can just click on the link, takes me straight through to the Salesforce.com opportunity record, where as a manager, I can then drill in on that opportunity. So it's very important to have that transparency within the application. Finally, we also build in the risk analysis. This allows us to understand where the pipeline risk might be, looking at the current quarter and looking at the next quarter. And so if I take a look at the next quarter, we can see what pipeline there is in the funnel for that quarter. I know based on historical close rates by age and stage, by region, that we should be able to close this much. Plus there's opportunities that will get opened and closed within Q3 that are not even yet visible to us based on the transaction history. And that allows me to see where the predicted outcome might be, compare that to quota and see is there any risk in the pipeline. And Q3 looks great, but Q4 we might need to do a little bit of work. From a forecasting perspective, it allows us to drill in a bit more and perhaps look at some high risk opportunities. So here we might say, take a look at the deals at risk object. And that allows us to take a view of the key opportunities, such as this one up here, where we can rank the deals by deal size, look at the data hug scores, and look at where there might be lapsing relationships. So what might be a reason for a deal slipping? No inbound communication, no recent communication, no communication at contacts opportunity. This is bringing together information from a relationship scoring tool, Data Hug, together with information from the Salesforce.com forecast to allow us to drill in and identify risk in the pipeline. Another area that we find is of common interest to our customers is to do a little bit, allow the reps and the managers to do a little bit of modeling. Here we have what we call lessons learned, and one of the lessons learned that we want our managers to think about is, for example, discounting. This principle applies to many of our managers, customers rather, whether it be discounting or margins. And here we can see that if we had reduced our discounting by, say, 7 points in this particular under this particular manager, we might have generated an extra couple of million in this case of revenue. So pushing out that kind of analytics to the edge of the organization helps our managers make better decisions in terms of discounting or whatever else is that we want them to look at. The final thing that I'll show in here in a tab called the Territory tab is helping our managers and indeed our salespeople ultimately leave a meeting and be able to pick up the phone and start selling to new contacts. And this is very, very important. So here we might take a look at some short-term opportunities. So it allows you to drill in and pick a particular set of opportunities by deal size or whether they have or haven't bought certain products from a cross-sell, upsell perspective. And what I would do is take a look at the calls to action. It's very important to have actionable data, not just pretty pictures. So one of the calls to action that we undertake is called a low hug rank and high priority. And this is bringing together four different data sources on this particular screen, which is the classic strength use case for Qlik. So what we've got here is data source number one is that the hierarchy data that I showed earlier on. This is bringing together an opportunity view data and account data from Salesforce. And then this is bringing together also Marketo data and Data Hug data. So to pick on a particular account, what we've got is this is the name of the customer. These are the names of the individuals. These are both contacts, although we can get a combined view of leads and contacts. And here we can see the lead scores. These allow us to see what the level of urgency is required from a Marketo perspective. What kind of demand are they showing us? And here I can see from a Data Hug perspective, the third data source, whether we've got people who have a quality relationship with these individuals or not. So if I click on the link here, and again, it takes me through to the individual contact record, and then as a leader, I can then focus in on either the Data Hug data or the Marketo data, see this individual's been responding to key events and so on. And if we've got a low Data Hug data, such as this one, where we've only got a hug rank score of 2, then we've got somebody that's showing quite a lot of interest, but there isn't a relationship on a live current opportunity. So I've seen there have been a couple of questions coming in. So I think how much effort required in building this application. Well, the good news is that we've built something called a sales accelerator, which is a consulting offering where we've taken everything we've learned to date from focusing on on what we've learned from building up the Sales 360, for both ourselves and our customers, and have shrunk that right down into a very easy to deploy package that a lot of our customers have shown quite a bit of interest in. If you can give us your data, we can pretty much turn around insights for you in just a matter of hours or up to a day. And then from there, we can engage with you on, the extent to which you want it customized for you. But we've taken, as I say, a huge amount of learning that we've done and built that into that particular application. The last Qlik application I just want to spend a few minutes on is called the Market 360. And then I'm going to hand over to Meerah, who's our VP of IT, to talk through how we cover the governance and the IT infrastructure and so on. So the Market 360 is built in Qlik Sense, and this is an application that brings together many different data sources. It's bringing together data.com, salesforce.com, DataHug, Marketo, hierarchy data, and indeed work day data in terms of our own organizational hierarchy data. And ultimately designed to help us figure out how do we, where do we deploy our sales and marketing resources most effectively. So I'm just going to open the application, and I'm going to click on the main sheet. And what I'm going to do is just focus in on one or two particular regions to drill in and demonstrate how this works. So we pick on the Americas, and I'm actually going to pick on LATAM. And as you can see, what's happening as I've made a couple of selections, the data is automatically changed in all of the other objects. And what this allows me to see is, looking at the LATAM business, where the pipeline is relative to the potential of that market. And here we can see that Brazil, according to the way we do our internal calculations, has the highest potential, followed by Mexico, followed by some of the other regions. Now, what's interesting here is that I might actually just want to drill in on a particular group of countries, and which I'll do here, and focus my attention on whether we're optimizing our resources in those territories. And it looks like there might be some potential, if you look at Mexico compared to Argentina, to increase our sales and marketing efforts there, for example. Now, one way of looking at the data is to say, okay, well, where are we from a geographical perspective? But I also might just want to drill in and look at which sectors the biggest opportunities might lie. And here it tells me that in those particular countries, retail and services, manufacturing and high tech represent the biggest opportunities. And that's based on, and the darkness of the color represents the degree of customer penetration that we have in those sectors. And it also allows me to drill in and actually look at things by segment as well. So here I might just want to look at particular employee ranges within those countries, and then look at where we've got white space and where we've got gaps in our coverage model. If I want to, I'm able to duplicate that sheet and actually change the way I look at the data. So I don't just want to take a country view anymore. I actually want to look at that in a different way. So I'll click on the LATAM view, click on edit. And actually what I'd quite like to do is look at the potential and pipeline by industry. And all I need to do is just find that data in the governed data library, change that from industry to industry, from region, click done, and that's it. And so it's carried all those selections across, and it now allows me to see from a potential and a pipeline perspective, where's my white space? And what I can clearly see here is that we've got work to do in retail in those particular countries in that segment to be able to increase that. And we have live examples of that. We use this all the time now to make really much more data-driven decisions about where we need to be deploying our sales and our marketing resources. It actually allows you to drill all the way down to an account perspective and see where there may be opportunities to redeploy resources. So here I'm able to drill in on a particular, I just take a look at a particular role within the hierarchy. So this allows me to focus in on a particular sales team, for example, which I'm going to do, and indeed a particular role within that sales team. And then I'm able to drill in and say, okay, well, where might there be some opportunities to focus on particular companies, looking at the Marketo scores and the DataHug scores. There we are. So expanding out the selections a little bit, what this tells me from a marketing or demand perspective is that all the companies above this red line, they're the ones showing quite a lot of demand, and all the companies below the red line, therefore, are fairly low levels of demand. And then to the right of the DataHug score, it tells me the strength of our relationship with them, and to the left of that red line, we see where the relationship could be stronger. And so this allows us to say then, all right, well, where should we therefore be redirecting our sales and marketing resources to focus on high interest but low current relationship score accounts, and then redeploy our sales and marketing resources accordingly. So it really allows a very sophisticated level of drill down to be able to see where segmentation could be improved from an overall market perspective. So I'm going to wrap up my demonstration there. So what I've shown you is the Sales 360 and the Market 360. The great thing about these applications is they contain common data definitions of pipeline, of industry, of customer, of all of the other key attributes that we would want to have, but we've got a very different user experience in terms of this is much more about self-service visualization. I've been able to go in there and make changes using the governed master library of key data objects as a user, whereas the Sales 360 is much more around the governed analytics. We want people to look at very specific things that very quickly help them identify problems that they can become more efficient in the field on a day-to-day basis. And Qlik is providing both capabilities to me as a user, depending on what it is I'm trying to achieve. And with that said, I think we'll pass the ball back to Meerah to continue with how the IT team within Qlik are supporting this environment that I've just been showing you.
Thank you, Joe. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everybody from all parts of the world. So you saw the power of what it makes for a business to make a timely decision, and also you saw the power of Qlik technology, both from a guided analytics point of view, and also you saw what Joe did on the fly, just changing the whole dimension of how you are viewing from industry-specific view to be a country-specific view. So one of the questions that I already saw that coming up on the thing was, hey, how are we governing and securing? Because you're talking about now the power is in the hands of the business. In Qlik, our IT Qlik mission is really to enable our business users to be at their best and provide them the ability to do data discovery. In other words, have the right data at the right point for them to make the decision. And we believe in the business knows what is the questions to ask, and they are the best people in making the decision around using the data. So what we would what I would cover in the next few slides is I would like to just go through, because generally IT has this concern of I want to make sure the company data is kept secure and there is a right governance. So I will cover that section. Then I will also probably give a quick preview of how even IT is using Qlik technology to run our own business. A very quick brief overview I'll provide. And if there are still more questions on security and governance after I talk through, please do feel free to raise it on the chat window. I'll try to cover it. Okay, so you saw Joe kind of mentioning the different type of platforms that business applications that we are using, from Salesforce to Workday to Marketo. And when you look at the architecture of how this whole thing is built, you have all your data sources in the bottom layer when I say, and then the next layer is where we kind of have a data connection layer. So in IT, we kind of support the bottom three layers. So pulling the data from all these different applications, either using a standard API adapter. Qlik do have a lot of standard API adapters. Where there is no API adapter in certain applications, we do use JDBC connections. In other cases, we are partnering with the application vendors and we are developing connectors with them. In some cases, our partners have developed connectors, so we use them as well. So I would say a significant percentage of our application data flow is through standard connectors, and in some cases, we are going to the source and using JDBC connectors. Once the data is pulled into this, what we call the staging stage, we do pull out the QED files, which is actually kind of the definition of the data, how it is going to be exposed for building the application, something like Sales 360 and the Market 360 that Joe showed you a few minutes ago. As part of the definition, we also apply the right rules, whether it is coming from AD or it is coming from something like Salesforce, where you have user roles and responsibilities defined, or something like NetSuite, where we do have governance around data visibility. Those rules get applied as part of the QED definition. So when someone starts building out the applications on top of it, the governance and the data visibility rules get carried all the way through. So from an IT point of view, when we get to that point of building out that data set, we expose the data sets completely to the business users and say, it's now up to you guys, because when you talk about Qlik Sense, it's a self-service BI. We really want now the data in the hands of the business, and we want them to assemble the questions that they wanted to visualize the data. And we believe in empowering the business by giving them the power of the data with the right governance. They can ask the right business questions, and they can do the right way of business discovery. So in this case, if you look at it, the bottom two layers are completely IT managed and IT governed. The third layer, we build the QEDs in partnership with the business, and then when it comes to governance and security, IT completely manages those two components, and when it comes to business application building, that's something that the business builds, and we do partner with them where they need help, but it's pretty much done by the business application. Business applications are done by the users themselves. At that point in time, we also provide the framework. You probably heard the term access point, which is actually our publishing and catalog framework. And that's kind of where, when the app is built, it gets published and people can come and use the app from the access point. And that framework is also managed by IT. So in nutshell, if you look at it, the power of everything you saw, it's actually done with the highest level of security and governance. And it is something, if you are an IT person, you can be a hero to your business users by taking the governance and security layer and applying it, but give the power in the hands of the business. Okay, I'm going to keep moving. If there are further questions, if anyone has on governance and security, please do let me know. What does our landscape look like? So as many of you know, our architecture is in-memory. That's actually the powerful engine that sits behind Qlik. And when you look at the amount of data that when Joe was doing the demo, there's millions and millions of rows of record that's behind the scenes that are getting processed on the fly. But our power is in memory, right? So at the time, if you look at it today, we have close to 400 plus applications within Qlik we use for various different use cases. And the infrastructure that we support on a daily basis, it kind of refreshes almost 50%. Again, it's a smart refresh. Depending on the usage, it kind of refreshes the data appropriately. And also, we have, in Qlik, one of the things is everybody is, when it comes to app, they develop. So we have more than 1,800 users within Qlik who kind of, develop apps and publish apps on a periodic basis. And you can also see that IT also keeps up with the rate of change that the business needs. So on an average, we are doing about 200 CRs or so, which means new features that we are pushing out to the business so the business can have better business discovery on top of the infrastructure we provide. In addition, we also believe in drinking our own champagne. So one of the charter for IT is we are actually the early adopters. In some cases, we are also the beta version of any new version of our Qlik Sense or View comes up. We will be the first one who are putting it in on our environment and exposing to our business to start leveraging the new functionalities that has been released as well. From an IT-specific point of view, we also use, as I said, it's not just in sales. I mean, pretty much in Qlik, we use our own technology for various use cases, like how sales is using the Qlik technology for running their business. When it talk about from an IT point of view, service management is a core process or framework that I wouldn't call we are 100% ITIL, but we take elements of ITIL to run our IT organization. So when we talk about request management, when we talk about change management, a lot of these elements, we do use ServiceNow as our platform, but most of the business decisions and most of the guidance and how we run our business is actually done through our Qlik applications, which are built on top of ServiceNow. ServiceNow has the power of running the process, but when it comes to visualization and decision making, the power is not as effective as having something like Qlik. So we have a layer of Qlik on top of ServiceNow. So for example, this is actually a screenshot of a service request management. It is our Helpdesk. It allows us to know what is the pattern of the different requests that are coming through. It allows us to look at what is the workload and which queues, and also it allows us to look at the load balancing of between the technicians and the service desk. It allows the administrators to balance the workload. It also helps us to proactively look at what kind of places that we are having. When we release a project, we also look at the trends to say where are we having change management issues, where people are not able to do the right adoption, what do we learn from it. So some of the new projects we have done, or some of the new, recently we did a NetSuite upgrade, and our Helpdesk ticket analysis was a huge part of where the users are struggling, and how do we take some of that and go back on either educating our users right, or it is really we are seeing a concurrent set of issues. This goes back to your incident problem to some extent as well. So we really use this as a tool to prioritize and to run our business in a much more of a data-driven rather than just a subjective fashion. The same thing, we also use it for sort of our change request management as well. So as you know, in IT, there are three things that you're learning by: incidents, and people want change, that's your next thing, and then the project request. So we do have a PMO 360 view as well, but I'm not showing the samples today. But change request, this is another good example of how we deal with it. So every single business function that we are supporting, we do have a view of what are the changes that they're sending, what kind of changes, what is the how much time it's taking, and how many are open today, what is the average time to close, what is the outliers. Pretty much I would say when you look at it from an analysis point of view, how it is landing, where the most changes are coming from, it allows us as a team to plan how do we prioritize CRs along with our business, right? I mean, we really take this as a metric. So we sit down with Joe's team and say, hey, this is the backlog in yours. How do you guys want to deal with it? These are the top priorities I'm seeing. Here is the work effort involved. So it becomes much more of a objective, data-driven dialogue when it comes to change requests and enhancements requests that we deal with our business as well. So just to wrap up, in a nutshell, I would say, the tagline I always tell, and I really feel proud to be with Qlik, is using Qlik technology, IT can be a hero when it comes to visual analytics with your business, because you're not giving up your governance, you're not giving up your security. The IT becomes really the infrastructure and the data layer provider with the appropriate governance and security, and you expose your QED files, which actually now allows the business to do the way they wanted to do the business discovery, and really empower them and give that power back in the hands of the business to run their business in the fashion they want to run. With that, I will turn to Dan. Dan, you can take it from here.
Great, thanks a lot, Meerah and Joe, for that great demonstration. And again, if anyone has any questions for Meerah or Joe based on what they've seen, please enter that into the Q&A panel. Just to wrap up here with a few customer examples, you can see we've had tremendous success at many different organizations in all different types of industries, and some of the staggering numbers that have been attributed to their improvements with Qlik as their analytics platform, from $100 million added revenue at Cisco, dramatic increased productivity at Westpac, cost savings at Swedbank and Lifetime Brands, to increased of performance where it was a manual process before, really improving their holistic approach to analytics at many of these organizations. And if you want to see more customer listings in particular regions or particular industries, please check out Qlik.com. We have many customer listings on there for some success stories that will be most similar to your organization. We also have some public demos available, and I have some sales demos highlighted here, but they are all different types of industries and functions. Our QlikView demo site is demo.qlik.com, and our QlikSense demo site is sense-demo.qlik.com. And you can play with these applications. You can actually download some of them, start to investigate some of the data models and chart objects. So please, in a self-service way, I would encourage you to check out our demo site for some more solution demo applications. There's a few that I really want to highlight as far as impact for sales organizations. The first is Qlik.com/Salesforce demo. And this was built with the open APIs of our QlikSense platform, embedding and customizing an application into a website, pulling data from Salesforce and being able to visualize it in new ways. Another great QlikSense sales application is Qlik.com/Sales Performance demo around sales management and customer analysis, the ability to target some customers and identify different types of trends, whether it's geospatial tracking or different types of revenue and margin analysis. We also have a sales management demo, Qlik.com/Sales Management demo, really to sort of a lot of the use cases seen within the Sales 360 application can be displayed here, whether it's analyzing pipeline and productivity, doing targeted approach to identifying open opportunities, and quota analysis. So another great application that you can check out. So some of the key takeaways, just to wrap up, we massively rely on our own products to run our business. Both QlikView and QlikSense are deployed in the same environment as you saw with Sales 360 and Market 360. And we're absolutely open to sharing best practices. So please encourage you to reach out. We'd be happy to engage with you around best practice and sort of getting up to speed with Qlik as a platform. So try our demo sites if you want on Qlik.com. There's a way to contact us and reach out directly. And I would definitely encourage you to download QlikSense Desktop for free. The 2.0 is available today, actually. So you can go on Qlik.com, download the desktop version for free, and start to integrate and visualize your data. Some other resources specific around sales solutions on Qlik.com. We have solution pages for different data sources, different industries, and different functions on Qlik.com. We also have our partner solution marketplace. So I mentioned at the beginning, we have a very vast, expansive partner ecosystem. And this is a marketplace to promote a lot of those solutions, whether it's extension objects, connectors, or solution applications. A lot of our partners share and promote their solutions here on market.qlik.com. We also have our user community, Qlik Community. It is a very active user community with over 100,000 active participants. So qlikcommunity.com, many different groups and discussion boards, many sharing of applications and best practices can be found there as well. We also have some education services, so being able to get started fast with Qlik, whether it is some free online training or whether it is more curriculum-based or in-classroom or e-learning. So we have our education services as well. So at this time, we're going to open it up for some questions. and I have some that have already come in. The first one is for Joe. What level of data prep is required in your environment? So you went through this expansive data architecture and showed sort of the end result, but what preparation is involved to get those applications to where users can analyze that information?
Yeah, so essentially the way it works is we have a Qlik view file that was called a QVD that sits on top of those different transaction systems. You're able to determine how often you want the refresh cycles to work and so on, and determine which fields and tables you want to get to have loaded up. And then we have on top of that a second file, Qlik view file, that allows us to build in our common data definitions. And then on top of that, we then determine which are the line of business applications that need to read from those common data definitions, or indeed need to just reach directly to the transaction system. And that often happens as well. So somebody in the business will want to take the common data definitions in the library around customer, pipeline, quota carrier, and so on. And then we'll also want to get insights from perhaps a new transaction system, such as Lattice Engines, which we implemented. And they'll may well go direct to data source on that, merge the data together in QlikSense, for example, and gain some insights. And if those insights are particularly compelling, then we'll build them into a standard production application for the use across a broader community. So you can either go direct to source, or you can go through that approach that I've just described. And obviously, we've been around a while. We've been building that infrastructure up ourselves over time. But as I say, for our customers and prospects to take advantage of that quickly, what we've done is build out these accelerators apps, such as the Sales 360 and the Market 360 is soon available too, to be able to take advantage of a lot of the lessons that we've learned in terms of gaining insights. You can, of course, sit Qlik on top of a data warehouse, or a combination. A typical situation is a combination of sitting on a data warehouse and sitting on some transaction systems where that data is not in the data warehouse, or indeed directly on Salesforce.com. It really depends on the use case of the customer.
Great, thanks, Joe. And there's a few questions here around was Market 360 Qlik View or QlikSense, or was Sales 360 Qlik View or QlikSense? Can you offer just a high-level overview of the differences of the product and what we mean when we talk about Qlik View and QlikSense? Yeah, so
Qlik View is the product that we've been we're known for, if you like, historically, and that's where we have 35,000 customers around the world, and deployments of every possible description under the sun, and that is and the use case that you saw, that's the Sales 360, and that tends to be more of the design at the center and consume at the edge of the organization type of deployment. It's called guided analytics or governed analytics. And that was and it really is perfect for the situation where, like the one you saw, where you want people in the marketing function or sales function to go in and look at very specific pieces of information, perhaps predefined KPIs or calls to action, and that's the one that you saw deployed within Salesforce.com. The Market 360 was actually built originally by one of our business users, merging data from 4 or 5 different sources. The visualizations were built by that individual, Steve, and he then used that to do a lot of, if you like, self-exploration of the data, creating the kind of visualizations that might work, some of the insights that might work, and then that was then put onto the server, and what you saw was the final kind of production version of it. So it's very much a business analyst built application as opposed to a developer built application. And the key advantage of that from a consumer perspective is that it really provides excellent capability for self-service. You saw the way I, as a non-developer, as a business user, was able to move the data around very, very easily, to bring in data attributes that into the visualizations that I wanted to bring in. I don't need to go and talk to somebody to be able to do that, and yet I know that I'm using trusted data. What I didn't show on there, it's got a terrific search capability, so if I wanted to drill in on a particular account, it would allow me to see the market opportunity for a particular account around the world. Or it also allows me to do storytelling as well. And storytelling is a great feature that allows us to pull together a presentation around a particular insight, for example, that enables the user to be able to see a table, for example, or a graph or an insight, but also drill down through that presentation into the underlying application. And those are capabilities within Sense, and you also saw within Sense the responsive design. As I moved around the table sizes, as I drilled in and looped around particular data, those are all the latest, if you like, visualization capabilities that we built into Qlik Sense. So Qlik View, much more for the guided analytics experience, and Qlik Sense, much more for the self-service visual analytics. But the great thing was that I was able to use common data across both applications. So it really just, you use the tool that's appropriate for the job. And that's why we call Qlik a platform, because we can provide an analytics experience which allows the different users to be served as they need to be.
Great, thanks, Joe. And we have time for one more question for Meerah. It is, what level of business acumen and knowledge is required to effectively support and build Qlik applications from an IT perspective?
Yeah, I think I would say you are actually a business partner tied to hip. So when you look at all the sources of data that Joe talked about, and all those applications are supported by actually IT today for business. So when you talk about it, I would say it's like you need, you're not the doer or expert, but you are the partner. You understand the business process. So when we talk about the QED files that just Joe mentioned, a lot of the data is actually the connectors, and building out the QED files to a large extent is done by IT, right? So absolutely you need to know where the needs of the business is, but the difference between knowing the business process versus what is the next question the business wants to ask, that's where the subtle difference comes. You absolutely need to know the business. You need to know what their data availability is so you can provide it to them. But what are the questions they want to ask? Do they want to predict some other question in the future? That's something that the power is in the hand. Now you expose the data with the right governance and security so the business can do what they want to do.
Great, thank you. And with that, we will wrap up the webinar. Thank you everyone for joining. This webinar will be available on demand if you join late or want to catch the recording again. And would encourage you once again to download the Qlik Sense 2.0 version that was released today, and start playing around and visualizing and integrating your own data sources in your own environment. Thank you everyone for joining.